What's up, everybody? Hope y'all are doing well. I wanted to go live tonight and talk a little bit about a couple of things. And I want to talk about why men and women are at odds. And so I'm gonna jump right on in so that we can all right, yeah, I think we're good to go. So number one, the dating landscape is kind of hectic. The relationship landscape is hectic and marriages are struggling um, in many different ways. But I don't want to go on without saying first, not everybody's marriage is suffering. Not everybody's relationship is terrible. I think the culture just harps on the negative more than the positive. But here's the deal. I just wanted to get that out the way. Number one, the reason why men and women are at odds is because nobody's listening. Like nobody's listening. People's bias turns off their listening capacity. So, for example, if you've been hurt or if you had negative experiences from the opposite sex, anytime they start talking, you start to filter it through your own pain and you start to filter it through your own trials, your own experiences. And so that bias becomes not just personal bias, but it becomes gender bias. And when you have a gender bias, that means you are going to take the side of your gender, even if the other gender has a good point. You're not going to be able to process it or reason with it or hear it because your gender bias is going to kick in. And so your personal experiences can create bias, and that personal bias can turn into gender bias. And so when the opposite sex starts talking about their pain, their hurt, their struggles, their experiences, you tune it out because in your mind, it's not valid enough and it's not as important as your experience within your own gender. So, one of the biggest reasons men and women are at odds is because nobody's able to truly listen. And also, let me say this remember, a lot of what you listen to on YouTube and on your podcast, the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. The Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. What do you think people are trying to do on these podcasts, YouTube pages? They want to make money because this is part of their livelihood. So sometimes their agenda is not to give you the best information that helps you come to solutions. But sometimes they want to feed off what they know you are going to buy into, which is the drama, the arguing, the fighting, the trying to be right, etc. I know for me and my wife, our only intention is to educate and teach people how to be successful in what they do relationally and in marriage and in the dating process. And so I want to encourage everybody to understand something. Men and women are at odds because we are not listening. If a woman tells you her pain point, you shouldn't dismiss it by bringing up another point, even though it may be valid. The best course of action is to hear what she is saying, show some empathy towards what she is saying, and give some level of validation to what she is saying. And ladies, you have to do the same thing to men. When a man brings up a point or an experience that they deal with or go through or etc., you cannot dismiss it. You have to bring some level of validation to it because if we don't do that, we're never really going to heal from this dynamic that is going on. Ever since 2020, when this kind of relationship world took off because everybody was at home and it just became a big thing, and people have been trying and fighting and arguing and debating, who brings what to the table, and the 50-50 and sex before, sex on the first date, all these different types of conversations. But the question is, who created mankind? Obviously, the answer is God. And if God created us, then the question is, who knows what's best for us? God. And if God knows what's best for us, then the question is, why aren't we listening to what he has to say about the dynamic between man and woman, boyfriend, girlfriend, husband, and wife? And instead, we are putting our own life experiences in it, our own opinions in it, instead of really listening to what God has to say about the whole dynamic. So this brings me into my second point, and I'm going to my second point by recapping my first point. Men and women are at odds because nobody's listening to each other. And when you don't listen to each other, you don't validate each other, because both men and women have very good arguments and points as to why they feel the way they feel about the relationship and dating landscape and the marriage landscape. Which brings me to my point number two. Men and women are at odds because men are not leading properly. Now, I am not saying all men are not leading properly. There are plenty of husbands that are leading their wives, leading their families, being the example. But I want to speak to, if I can, in my humble opinion, the majority, and say we have to do better as men. So men and women are at odds because men are not leading. So with this second point, husbands are supposed to lead the family by example. But I think what's happening is we're trying to create marriage dynamics inside of boyfriend girlfriend connection. And sometimes, if not all the time, that can get very murky. It can get very, very, very murky, because you can't create a marriage dynamic inside of a boyfriend girlfriend relationship. One, because God doesn't honor boyfriend or girlfriend. Everybody doesn't believe in God. That's fine. But if there is not a marriage, then you're single. That's why on your applications and your various documentation, they say, are you married or are you single? On your tax documents, you can't put I got a boyfriend or I got a girlfriend. So the thing is, we're trying to put marriage dynamics and fit that into boyfriend girlfriend dynamics. So for example, we'll say women are supposed to submit. Well, yeah, to her father. She don't need to submit to no boyfriend. Like what? Like, what are we doing? Now, she may show submissive qualities, but she don't need to submit to you. You're not her husband. And the same goes for you, husband. You don't have to pay for anything. You don't have to do anything that she requires. You're not her husband. But the issue comes in is when you're trying to create marriage lifestyle inside of a boyfriend girlfriend dynamic, men and women are going to be at odds because there's going to be differences in how you view that, because you're mad because she's not submitting to you, but you didn't commit to her. Because unless you have a ring and faithfulness, you don't have a commitment. Again, unless you're married, you're single. So imagine a boyfriend and a girlfriend pretending to be married, trying to create this dynamic only to create more trauma, problems, and issues, because the boyfriend girlfriend dynamic don't work because it's not a marriage. It's really just a friendship with benefits. And then those benefits give makes everything muddy and blurry. My wife is home. So I'm live.
Really?
So the thing is that recap number two. I'm only gonna cover those two things today. Boyfriend and girlfriend stuff is just baby puppy love, baby stuff. Marriage is the grown up stuff. And if you're a boyfriend and a girlfriend in some type of dynamic or relationship, the truth is it gets muddy unless you're married. Because a woman don't need to submit to a boyfriend, and a boyfriend don't need to act like a husband and pay all the bills and all that stuff. Like that's not a healthy dynamic. So men and women are at odds because of these two major key components, right? Number one, again, nobody's listening to each other. So when a man or a woman brings up some very valid issues or points or challenges to the opposite sex, we shoot it down and dismiss it because it's not, because we believe that our experience is better, greater, worse, etc. For example, when we talk about and again, so recap number two, we're trying to create marriage dynamics inside of boyfriend girlfriend dynamics, and it just don't work. So for example, let's just take um and y'all can, if you know, give me some examples if y'all want me to share any I mean if y'all have some in mind. But like for example, a boyfriend or girlfriend will, you know, try to be monogamous, right? And that's fine. I think there is some credibility to monogamy inside of a boyfriend girlfriend relationship. But the truth is, unless you're married, you're single. And so a lot of men want their woman to be loyal to them, but they don't have no commitment. So what makes you expect your girlfriend who's single and you're single too to be loyal to you when you are not showing any level of commitment? Now, granted, I understand there needs to be some time, right? You get to know each other, etc. But after a few months, right, there needs to be some very, very clear credibility to where, hey, where is this going? And you as a man have to provide that. And ladies, when he provides that, you have to understand that this is creating a dynamic to where, okay, if we're going forward in this relationship, then y'all are moving towards marriage, not some situationship. And so, which brings me to another point. Men and women are at odds because there's no clarity in what's going on in these relationships. It's just a lot of like pictures and dates and, you know, Instagram and Facebook stuff. And, you know, we telling people this my man, this my girl, but there's no real clarity of what really is going on because people don't know how to. Who is that? All right. They don't know how to um really communicate stages. There are stages of dating, right? I'm not going to cover that tonight, but there are stages of courtship, and most people don't understand them. And so oftentimes people are jumping through these stages unknowingly, not realizing they're creating more problems than they are solving problems. And then I'll add one more thing. Men and women are at odds because people are not healed. And they're not healed because their mom and dad did them a disservice. And I know many people love their parents, but we have to start being honest about some things. For many of you, your parents messed you up. And I know that's hard to hear for some people who love their mom and love their dad, but let's just call it what it is. For a lot of people who are trying to date, trying to be in relationships, etc., your parents messed you up. and you are duplicating a lot of their patterns throughout your dating experiences. And so, if we're not careful, we're going to keep creating more and more challenges amongst each other because we're not listening to each other. We're really just not listening. You can say something that's very true without a shadow of a doubt, and it does not matter what the truth is. People are going to comment and respond based on how they feel, because people have a hard time speaking and listening to truth, absence of bias, because their pain is communicating for them. Their pain is interpreting for them. And so their biases, their gender bias starts to listen for them and communicate for them. That's all I want to share briefly. Any questions? Y'all got any questions for me tonight? Which